I'm Rabbi Steven Bob. I'm the Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Etz Chaim in Lombard, Illinois, and guest faculty here at Wheaton College.
Rabbi Steven Bob, great to see you here on Exegetically Speaking.
It's good to be back.
Yes, it's your fourth time.
Fifth time.
Fifth time. This is for number 5?
This is number 5.
Okay, all right.
I'm a regular.
You are, and I'm so glad. It's our 5th season, and the podcast is growing well, and we get lots of downloads, and all around the world, people are listening to this podcast. So
I better be careful about what I say.
You should be. You should be. Now, you're working on a commentary on Ezra and Nehemiah. How's that going?
So I've been working on this now for about 7 years,
Okay.
and I can see the conclusion. Seriously, I expect by in the next couple months to finish a complete first draft.
Now, for those who don't know, Ezra and Nehemiah are really connected books, right?
Yes, so they describe the events of the return from the Babylonian exile, and they describe an overlapping period. And Ezra's even a character in the 8th chapter of Nehemiah. And they tell a story that for me is a very important story, but I think that in both the Jewish world and the Christian world, these are books that kind of get stuck in the corner.
They do.
That people don't pay attention to them, which gave me an opportunity to turn on the lights and say, come look at this. There's something interesting here we should all learn from.
Indeed. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that when that comes out.
Good.
I want to talk again on our other podcast that we do called the Stone Chapel Podcast. And we get a little bit more time in that podcast than we do in this one today. Today we're going to talk about a Hebrew word, Yehudim. That's a great example of and it has lots of applications and interesting things. So what does Yehudim mean in Hebrew?
So in modern Hebrew, Yehudim straightforwardly means Jews. The question for us today is, what does it mean in biblical Hebrew?
Ah, yes.
And I think that too often it's translated as Jews when it does not yet mean Jews. That the meaning of Yehudim as Jews is a later meaning.
So it's post-exile or
For sure, it's post-exile. The word does not occur in any of the books of the pre-exile period. So in the Torah, in the first 5 books of the Bible, the people are known as Bnei Yisrael. Literally, the children of Israel, often translated as Israelites. Sometimes the people are known as Ivrim, as Hebrews. When in the book of Jonah, when Jonah identifies himself to the sailors on the ship, he says, Ivri Anochi, I am a Hebrew. They don't know. Moses didn't know that he was Jewish.
That'd be a great title for a book. Moses didn't know he was Jewish.
I think, I like it. An essay, maybe.
An essay, yeah. It's worth an essay for sure, yeah.
So the word, I've encountered the word in Nehemiah. And Nehemiah is speaking to the people of Jerusalem, and he uses the word ha-Yehudim. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I haven't seen this word before this point in the Hebrew Bible. What does the word mean? Now, the published translations mostly translate it as Jews. But I think that it's too soon to use that term. And when Nehemiah uses the term, I think it's a geographic term. I think Jerusalem is in Judah, and I think he's talking about Judeans.
So is that geographic area referred to as Judea at that point?
Or as Judah?
Judah. Yeah, Judah.
Yeah, so it's the same term. Later in the Roman period, it becomes known as Judea.
Judea, that's right.
But when Joshua divides the land among the tribes, this is the area that's given to the tribe of Judah. So it's Judah land.
Judah land.
So the people who would live there can be understood as Judeans. Imagine for a moment that you live in Texas. Imagine that.
Imagine. There's a word for that.
Yes, yes. So Texan is not a religious term. I mean, some people take Texas very seriously. I understand.
Right.
But
it's not a religious term.
It's a geographic term. So I think that in Nehemiah, Yehudim is a geographic term.
So people of Judah.
People of Judah. I think that it becomes a religious term in the book of Esther.
Okay.
So the word Yehudim appears in the Hebrew Bible 72 times. I love using my concordance.
Isn't that nice?
It's one of my favorite books. if you would come up to my office, you would see it's literally at my right hand. And it's open.
Always
It's never
open.
closed. It's open. So
72 times
72
Yehudim.
times, and 48 of them are in the book of Esther.
Wow, that's amazing.
If we would look at the first place the term occurs in the book of Esther, it's in chapter 2, verse 5. And this is the verse that introduces Mordechai. So it's a key verse. And it says, in the fortress Shushan lived a Jew, or Ish Yehudi, a Jewish man.
Yeah, Jewish
Ish
man.
Yehudi, by the name of Mordechai, son of Yair, son of Shimi, son of Kish, a Benjamite. How the verse describes Mordechai is important and helpful. So it can't be calling him Yehudi, which is just the adjectival form or the singular noun, one or the other. It can't be geographic because he's not in Judah. He is in Shushan.
He's living in Persia.
He's living in Persia. He's in exile. Yes.
Yes.
And it can't be tribal. It can't be saying he's from the tribe of Judah because the verse describes him as being from the tribe of Benjamin.
Ah, see.
So what does the term mean? So I think it means that he's somebody from the Jewish people who is following the Jewish religion. And for how the story of Esther plays out and his unwillingness to bow down to Haman and all of that, it's clearly that his identity as a member of the Jewish people and a practitioner of the Jewish religion, we can say, is exactly what the verse is introducing.
I see.
So I think that one could say, if I say, who is the first Jew? So people want to say it's Abraham and Sarah. But it's using the term to describe Abraham and Sarah is really an anachronism.
Right.
They wouldn't recognize the term. Mordechai would understand the term as describing him. So I think that Mordechai is the first Yehudi.
And that has religious connotations
Absolutely.
at that point.
I think
it's not just saying, well, he's a man and he used to live in Judea,
Right.
Judah.
Right. It's not that kind of. It's not like he's not a Texan. He
Yeah.
is a Yehudi by religion, and Haman is all upset about Mordechai's religious practices, and
that really becomes the fulcrum for the rest of the book.
that's right. So Haman says they're a peculiar people, and it's not just because they got lost. They're peculiar people because of the religion they practice. And for us as Jews today, as a minority group here in America, this verse speaks loud and clear. We are mostly feel welcome and secure here in America. I certainly feel very safe here on the campus of Wheaton College.
Yes, good.
Embraced, loved, and supported. But events happen that remind us that we're a minority, a peculiar people.
And hated by some.
Hated by some.
Hated by some. Now, how does this come into the New Testament? Let's talk a little bit about that because I'm a Greek guy.
Yes, I understand.
And I understand eudaioi is the Greek word that translates Yehudim, I suppose.
Right. So in John, in the Gospel according to John, the term is used several times, and it's often when it's translated into English, it's often translated as Jews. But I think the same problem that we found in the Hebrew Bible occurs in the Greek Scripture. That the term in John chapter 7, verse 1, after this Jesus went about in Galilee. He would not go about in Judea because the Eudaioi were seeking to kill him. And oftentimes that's translated as Jews. And it makes no sense because the people in Galilee were also Jews.
We're also Jews as well.
All the characters here are Jews. So it must be a geographic term. That he was secure and safe with his followers and people who were sympathetic to him in the Galilee, but the people in Judah around Jerusalem were hostile. So I think that in chapter 7, verse 1 of John, it should be Judeans. It should be a geographic term again, not a term of...
So he would not go about in Judea because the Judeans were seeking to kill him.
That's right.
So,
I think that's what the text is trying to tell us.
Yeah. But it's not a riffing against the Jews,
right?
Because the writer likely was a Jew, and the characters in the story were Galilean Jews.
That's right. So as you and I both know, when we read the story in translation, we're not getting all the subtleties of the story.
Yeah.
But to read the story and really fully understand it, we have to read it in the original language. We have to take the time to learn Hebrew and Greek.
Amen to that. I agree. Rabbi Steven Bob, thanks for being with us today on Exegetically Speaking.
David, it's a pleasure.
I think Rabbi Steven Bob is exactly right about that reading of John's Gospel and how that is related to, quote, the Jews. So take a look at that. It's pretty fascinating. Thanks to him for being with us. Thanks also to our team in Wheaton, John Lonsma, Rebecca Larson, and Ian Rosine. If you have questions or comments, just want to be in touch, email us at exegetically.speaking@wheaton.edu. That's exegetically.speaking@wheaton.edu. Make sure also that if you're interested in studying at Wheaton College, that you do that by going first to the website. And our website is wheaton.edu/languages, wheaton.edu/languages. Great to be with you today on this podcast, and we look forward to next time. Thanks for listening.